was in John 11 where Jesus had said, "Did I not tell you that if you believe you will see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." Then the dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen, and a cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." Once again, let's go through this. Antecedent is this is a conditional statement. The antecedent is if you believe, and the consequent is you see the glory of God. So if you believe, then the scene that I've drawn here doesn't exactly make sense, because this scene doesn't really show the glory of God. It just shows a dead guy getting pulled out of a tomb, and having these poor guys being told, take off the grave clothes and let him go. But if you actually believe, you read something different into the story. You read between the lines and see Lazarus coming out, being relieved from being released from death. Now, a lot of times you can test the veracity, the truth of a conditional statement by checking its contrapositive, which is if you don't see the glory of God. For me, this is true in this because John didn't really. John never said Lazarus was getting up and walking around. And as a matter of fact, and also, well, recall what Martha said. But Lord, said Martha, the sister of the dead man, by this time there is a bad odor, for he has been there 4 days. So, does God do miracles to prevent the rotting of dead flesh? Or is the rotting of dead flesh part of the glory of God? So this question, I don't even know whether this is true or false. I can imagine if I see a dead man being pulled out of a grave, I'm probably going to find a bit of revulsion on my part because it's going to stink and the flesh is going to kind of hang down on the bones. Isn't it to the glory of God that the righteous perish, the devout are taken away? The righteous are taken away to be spared from evil, and those who walk uprightly enter into peace. They find rest as they lie in death. So in John 11:39 through 44, you may either see the dead man walking when he comes out. That's one possibility. Or you see a group of people pulling basically a corpse out of the tomb. Which of those demonstrates the glory of God? Well, in Luke 16, there's another fellow named Lazarus, and Lazarus in this story was laid a beggar covered with sores. Okay, where was I? There was this rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen and lived in luxury every day. At his gate was laid a beggar named Lazarus, covered with sores, and longing to eat what fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs came and licked his sores. The time came when the beggar died, and the angels carried him to Abraham's side. The rich man also died and was buried. In Hades, where he was in torment, He looked up and saw Abraham far away with Lazarus by his side. So he called to him, Father Abraham, have pity on me and send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in the water and cool my tongue, because I am in agony in this fire. But Abraham replied, Son, remember that in your lifetime you received good things, while Lazarus received bad things. Now he is comforted here, and you are in agony. And besides all this, between us and you a great chasm has been set in place, so that those who want to go from here to you cannot, nor can anyone cross over from there to us. And Lazarus answered, Then I beg you, Father, send Lazarus to my family, for I have 5 brothers. Let him warn them, so that they will not also come to this place of torment. And Abraham says, No, Father, or says, They have Moses and the prophets. Let them listen to them. And Lazarus says, No, it really needs to be a dead guy. He says, No, Father Abraham, he said, but if someone from the dead goes to them, they will repent. And Abraham says, If they don't listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not be convinced, even if someone rises from the dead. So here's the thing, Luke 16 was about the iniquities between the rich, the very rich and the very poor. Um, this is amazing because there's not even anything here about Lazarus being, or I'm sorry, that wasn't Lazarus. That was the rich man. Rich man, rich man over here. Abraham over here. Here's the angel and Lazarus just being brought in. All right. Lazarus didn't say much in this story, just as he doesn't say anything in this story. Lazarus is always silent. Um, so here we've got the rich man saying, "Send Lazarus to bring some water to me," and Abraham just points out that a rich man received good and Lazarus received bad during life. It doesn't say that the rich man was an evil person or anything like that. It just says the rich man had a lot and maybe didn't share. Um, so Luke 16 is mostly about um, the balance of wealth. And so when Abraham says they will not be convinced, he is probably saying they won't be convinced to distribute their wealth equitably. Um, on the other hand, John 11 is about a different thing. John 11 is about whether this guy, um, and I'm calling him Barabbas, what the question is, do you believe that he is the Son of God? Do you believe that he is the resurrection, as Martha described it? So anyway, some of these Jews who had come to visit Mary and had seen what Jesus did believed in him. Um, with the description that I've just given, the sort of person that would believe in him after seeing a demonstration like that are the sort of people that appreciate really good irony. Maybe not the type of people that you know treat all ritual with a great deal of reverence and respect, but uh, not necessarily bad people either. But they would say um, the kind of just the entertainment value of having Barabbas telling them pull the body out of the crypt and then say, here is the glory of God, or something like that, and just kind of getting them to look at that truth, that the glory of God is in part the a comparison to the eternal versus the mortal. And the mortal body dies and it doesn't come back to life. But in a sense, this would kind of be making a mockery of the Jews, because he's kind of spreading this in, and a lot of people are crediting him with being the Jewish Messiah, while he's also coming around and kind of making a joke out of it. So some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done, and the chief priests and the Pharisees called a meeting of the Sanhedrin. From Wikipedia, who cites an 1883 encyclopedia, People's Cyclopedia of Universal Knowledge. Here is a pencil, or a sketch of the Sanhedrin, which is filled with many of the Pharisees and priests. What are we accomplishing? They asked. Here is this man performing many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and then the Romans will come and take away both our temple and our nation. And let's remember to take this in the context of John's Gospel. Two of the signs, remember or maybe three. Two of these were very much about kind of magical Jewish places. The pool at Bethesda and the pool at Siloam, where the Jewish people already had an apparatus in place of miraculous healing waters. And then Jesus came in and took advantage of those healing apparatuses on a Sunday, and then kind of took credit for doing the healing. And then another one of the things that he did, he turned water to wine. Specifically, it was for people who had had too much to drink. Anyway, this sort of activity might have been frowned upon by the authorities. And now we have a man claiming to be the Jewish Messiah carting around the corpse of Lazarus. So considering the sorts of things that Jesus has been doing, it's reasonable to say if we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and then the Romans will come and take away both our temple and our nation. Then one of them, named Caiaphas, who was the high priest that year, spoke up. You know nothing at all. You do not realize that it is better for you that one man die for the people than that the whole nation perish. So I think Caiaphas is a man with a plan. Earlier that year, he had prophesied that Jesus would die for the Jewish nation, and not only for that nation, but also for the scattering children of God, bring them together and make them one. So from that day on, they plotted to take his life. But again, the question is, which life did they plot to take? Jesus Barabbas, or Jesus who is called the Messiah? So Caiaphas reveals a part of the plan here. Reveals a part of the plan that Jesus would die, but he doesn't reveal the rest of the plan, that Jesus would also be released. A goat to be sacrificed to the Lord, and a goat to be sacrificed, or to be offered as a scapegoat. So somehow Jesus found out what the Sanhedrin was planning. So Jesus no longer moved about publicly among the people of Judea. Instead, he withdrew to a region near the wilderness to a village called Ephraim, where he stayed with his disciples. Ephraim is located in the wild, uncultivated hill country 13 miles to the northeast of Jerusalem. It is probably the same place as Ophrah in Joshua 18, Ephron in 2 Chronicles, and the modern Palestinian Christian city of Tebeh. So it looks like Tebeh there is almost, well, it's a little bit closer to the Dead Sea than it is to the Sea of Galilee. It is a very steep-looking city, which is actually kind of something that I'm looking for. Tebeh has an elevation of 850 meters, which is 2,788 feet above sea level. In that area between the Dead Sea and the Sea of Galilee, there is Mount Ebal that is 3,000 feet, that's higher than Tebeh, and there is Mount Gilboa, 1610, which is a little lower than Tebeh. So they're in Ephraim, and this is getting close to the last time the Jesus' last Passover festival in John's Gospel. And when it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, many went up from the country to Jerusalem for their ceremonial cleansing before the Passover. They kept looking for Jesus, and as they stood in the temple courts, they asked one another, "What do you think? Isn't he coming to the festival at all?" But the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that anyone who found out where Jesus was should report it so that they might arrest him. So I looked in Matthew, and it mentions Jericho. So as Jesus and his disciples were leaving Jericho, a large crowd followed him. And then immediately after this crowd happened, we get to as they approached Jerusalem and came to Bethphage on the Mount of Olives, then he is collecting his donkey and his colt. But we've got this one city that has three different names, Ephraim, Ophrah, and Tebeh. And it looks like they're close, sort of, maybe on the way from each other. Where is Jerusalem in this map? Okay, so this is simple enough. Somebody's been nice enough to put them together in one map. You've got Ephraim over here. You go through Jericho, and then you come through Bethphage, Bethany. And then you can go back and forth to Jerusalem and back to the Mount of Olives. So that's, I suppose, not impossible. My thinking, though, is that we have one of them coming from Jericho into Bethany, while the other one is coming from Ephraim. So we are following John's Gospel. And you'll notice here at the website it says Luke and Matthew have similar accounts, but the exact order of events varies slightly. I am using John's account and assuming that this is a different, and the reason for the variation is not just exact orders are different, but because this is a different Jesus. This is the story of Jesus Barabbas coming to Jerusalem. And looking up Ephraim in, I don't know, the New International Version, notice in the New Testament, Ephraim only occurs once. It's in the Gospel of John. So I'm trying to reproduce this map of Judea that he's drawn, and I've got something that looks kind of like this. It's not exact, but it'll do for now. Recalling that passage from Zechariah, the Lord stands on the Mount of Olives, dividing it north and south, and the waters, uh, the living water moves east towards the Dead Sea and west towards the Mediterranean. And maybe this is a passage where that happens. And we'll begin chapter 12 of John in the next video.